Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in for another episode. So in this episode, we are going to be covering the brand new saltwater mega tank, the 1,000 gallon beast. And in this video, I'm going to be covering the interior design. So we are going to be installing a really cool 3D background. I'm going to be building a PVC tunnel system for the eels because they absolutely love PVC tunnels. It doesn't look natural, but I'm going to try to cover it with some rocks, some base rock that I have been curing over the last 2 months to jumpstart the cycle. I'm going to be putting probably around 800 pounds of sand to create some sort of sandband in this huge aquarium. And after that, yeah, probably some minor touches here and there, and then we should be pretty much set for the interior design. All right, so let's start with the 3D background. So this background is from the company Universal Rocks. They are located in Texas. And this model in particular is the rocky background. And the color I chose is the standard brown. And as you can see, it's really, really thin and flat. So which is great because it doesn't take up a lot of space in the inside of the tank. And also there's not a lot of space for fish to get behind the background or food to accumulate and stuff and start rotting and fouling the water. So that's really good. I like that it's in one piece. So there's no ugly scenes that I have to align and hide or whatever. It's not very heavy. The whole piece is under 40 pounds, so which makes it easy to handle and install. And because I got a really good deal on this one I bought during the Memorial Day sale, so I got 50% off. With that savings, I purchased this piece, which I will be using to cover the overflow box. So I don't have to wait for months and months for GSP or some other coral to cover that background. It's going to be looking great from day one, and both backgrounds are the same, so they will match. And overall, I'm really happy. I like how it looks. This is not a saltwater specific background, so this is more of an all-purpose background. People use it for reptile aquariums or terrariums, for paludariums. But I think when you put something in saltwater, you know that eventually it will change color. So your white base rock will turn brown or purple or whatever. So it's not a big deal. But I do like the patterns. So I really like how that looks. You know that I usually purchase my backgrounds from Aqua Decor Backgrounds, which is a very popular 3D background maker. But unfortunately, the piece that I purchased had some major flaws in it. And I requested to get my money back, and I hope by the time this video comes out, this has been resolved. If not, I will let you know. There will be a video regarding that issue, just for your awareness. So the background from Aqua Decor cost me over $1,500. That is just like this piece. But both of these pieces from Universal Rocks were just over $1,000. So I saved a lot of money, have a lot less hassle installing it because it's in one piece and it's thin and it's light, so that will make it really easy to work with. So I will be installing this, and then hopefully we can see how it looks. All right, so the 3D background is now installed, and I think it looks pretty good. Looks a lot different than other companies' saltwater backgrounds. I mean, this isn't meant for saltwater specifically. It's kind of an all-purpose background, and it's very dark, so some people may not like it, but the lighting I'm using right now is probably not the one that I'm going to use it full-time for this aquarium. It's just for this little video. For the overflow box, I had to actually cut the background into 3 pieces because it was just too difficult to make it flat against the overflow box. The bend was just too strong, and I did try to use a heat gun to soften it, but it wasn't working. But it's still, I think it came out good. Over there you see the cut pretty bad, but I think it will be covered up with the rest of the interior design that I'm going to be putting in here. So this is it for now. I think it looks really nice. It's nice and flat. I didn't lose a bunch of space because it doesn't stick out to the front. And yeah, so next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be installing a PVC pipe system for the eels because eels absolutely love PVC tunnels. And obviously, it may look a little bit bad in there initially because it's not natural, of course, but I think we can make it work. Okay, so the PVC pipe system is now installed, and as you can see, it is huge. So let's start with the connectors. So all these connectors are actually ABS connectors, and the piping between the ABS connectors is PVC, and that is because for some reason ABS piping floats and PVC piping doesn't float. So what I had to do is I had to connect all these ABS pipes with white PVC piping, and in order to make this look more uniform, I actually spray painted the PVC piping with this aquarium safe paint. So that will make it look a little nicer. And yeah, I also drilled holes underneath. I'm not sure if you can see that way back there, probably not, but basically underneath the piping and in some spots I drilled big holes because the eels, they will poop in the pipe system, so these openings will allow it for to come out of the piping system. And I also drilled some smaller holes on the top of each pipe. You can see some back there and one back there, and that is to allow for air to be released. And yeah, I think they're going to love it. My idea is to have these pipes be covered with green star polyps. So I have a bunch of green star polyps here, and I'm basically going to frag it and glue it everywhere on top of the pipes to make it blend in a little better. It will take a while, but yeah. So one thing I want to mention is that the giant moray is actually probably going to get so big that he actually won't be able to fit into these pipes anymore. And when that happens, I really don't want to go inside this huge tank and rip everything out while this giant moray is in there. So I'm actually going to be placing in some tall flower pots that I lay on the side, 2 of them. And so they won't be big enough for him to fit his whole body in there. But when I looked at aquariums and zoo displays, I could see that the eels, they just like to have something to cover their, even just part of their body. So he'll be able to partially get in at least, and his head will be sticking out. So I'm going to be putting this in now. I had to first install all the plumbing to make sure that I know how much space I have. And now that I know, I will be putting in some side planters for the giant moray. All right, now we have everything in the tank in terms of hiding spaces for the eels. Here are the 2 side planters for when the giant moray gets too big for the 4-inch piping that I put in. And these pots are made out of concrete and weather-resistant fiberglass. So they're pretty sturdy. And but what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be covering all of this obviously with rocks, the bottom part. And I'm going to be using some smaller, flatter pieces for the side planters because I don't know how they're going to last over time. I don't want to put a ton of weight on top of it and risk that it comes crashing down when an eel is inside. So, but everything else should be able to hold on or, carry the weight of some bigger pieces of rock. And then after that, I will have to put in the sand. But let me show you the rocks. All right, so now that the PVC pipe system is in place, I want to go over some of the rocks. So these are the rocks that I'm going to be using to cover the pipe system. And basically what we have here is about 400 pounds of rock. And I actually purchased another 400 pounds, which is currently curing in some brewed trash bins with some beneficial bacteria. But the reason why I wanted to show you these rocks right here is because there are basically 2 different types of rocks. So you have what you see down here is Carib Sea South Base rock. So This was about 40 pounds. And the great thing about that one is if you have a small aquarium, it comes in like 7 to 10 pieces. But then we have another type of rock, which is the Nature's Ocean Natural Coral Aquarium Base Rock. And that one is also comes in 40 pounds. But because the rocks are so much bigger, you only get 2 to 3 rocks per box. And for somebody like me who's currently setting up an aquarium for some huge animals, this type of rock is actually better, simply because the moray eels are so strong and big, they can easily, knock away these smaller rocks. So this type of rock right here is going to be really good for my aquarium, and I'm just going to be using some of the smaller rock to cover some of the smaller areas of the pipe system. I just finished putting in the sand, and I believe I put in 6 bags of 40 pounds, so 240 pounds of sand, and I have about roughly a 2-inch sand bed. And some people may say you should put in the rocks first and then the sand, because the rocks could shift, if you have a goby digging some holes somewhere and then removing the sand where the rock sits on. But these pieces of rock that I showed you earlier are so big and heavy, it's, I think, impossible. And I'm not going to stack it so high. I'm only going to cover, the lower section. And then the upper section, like I said earlier, I hope that green star polyps will eventually go over it. One thing I forgot to mention about these planters is they're really, they have a lot of sharp edges inside when they make it with the fiberglass. So I had to use a file and remove anything that is sharp so that the eel won't, whatever eel goes in there won't hurt himself. So I imagine he will go in and then he will come out. So he will always roll in that cave for him, and I don't want him to scrape his body on anything sharp. And also these feet where the pipe system is basically resting on, I filled those up with filter floss so that obviously when the eel goes through and he poops or whatever, that it doesn't go into those feet and then just sits there forever and then rots away. But the next part, I believe, will now be to put in some water up to like here, and then I can place the rock that have been curing for the last 2 months so that it stays submerged. And then I will continue stacking more from the uncured rock and then fill up the tank all the way to the top, and then we should have something that is close to the final aquarium. All right, guys, so it's been about 2 weeks now since I've moved the eels into the tank, and here we can already see the tessellata, and up here we see the giant moray. So he absolutely loves to be up high, which is why I built this pipe system especially for him, and especially the upper floor. So everything has gone well. As you can see down here, we have some cyanobacteria, and that is simply because this tank is going through its initial ugly phase. And the water obviously is a little bit cloudy. You cannot really see all the way to the back and see the back of the 3D background. And that's because of an algae bloom that happens when you add a bunch of fish at once, and which I had to do since I already owned the eels. Couldn't wait really for the tank to balance itself before putting them in. But everything went well. Eels are really, really happy. They go in and out this pipe system all over the place, and I designed it specifically to have multiple openings and entrances everywhere. So if there is ever aggression between the eels and the 2 eels meet in the same pipe at the same location, they they can easily separate themselves by using one of the many exit points. I think the next video will probably be about the filtration system. So this was something I had to really build from scratch, completely custom. And then another video will be covering all the tank mates that I have in here and that are safe with eels, and that have been living well together with them with no problems at all. And if you are interested, stay tuned. I will be posting that probably in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I think this has been a success. It was a long time coming, especially for the giant moray. I was really, sad to always see him in the small tanks, in the 270-gallon tank, the tank that was 6 feet by 2 feet by 3 feet. Him trying to swim around, because he is actually a very active swimmer. So a lot of people think all you need is just a bunch of rock and you just snake through the rocks and that's it. But they actually like to swim and they actually like to explore. And yeah, the giant moray, what happened in the old tank, he would be on one side of the tank. He would then start to swim, be up in the water and in second gear. And as soon as that happens, he's already the other end of the tank and had to turn around. So that was really sad to watch. But with this tank, he can really, explore, really swim, and he really loves it. And the Tesselata actually became more of an active swimmer as well. He not only stays down in the rockwork, so he swims around as well. And yeah, so I hope this aquascape here will remain the same for a while. And I won't have to change it anytime soon. The only time I would have to change it, I guess, is if the giant moray will become too large to fit through these pipes. And if he's not fancying these side panels that I put in, because they're only like 28 inches long. So he would only be able to go in and out, so his body would be fully exposed almost. But we'll see. I will do that when it comes to that point. But yeah, thank you so much for your interest in this aquarium and this Moray Eel series. And like I said, I will be posting more updates as things progress. And especially when the water becomes clearer, then it will look stunning. And I have some green star polyps that I have placed everywhere that are not out right now. But when this covers the rockwork, eventually over the years, it will look really, really good. And for the lighting, I did mention in the first video that I have some AI Vega lights. I have 8 of them, and they work really well. A little bit finicky with the old controller back from 2012 or when they were released, but they make the eels, look really nice. The colors of the eels and the fish, you can customize them all you want. And yeah, so thanks again. I hope you get some inspiration. This is really an odd tank, a peninsula tank that has been converted to a normal tank. It's in these dimensions. It is straight in my living room, but I cannot complain. I mean, how many people can say that they walk into their kitchen and then they turn to the left and they have a giant moray in their aquarium in their living rooms looking at them? So I feel privileged to be able to say that. It did cost me a lot of money, this aquarium, but it's an initial investment and the running costs are not too bad. So thank you again for watching this video. I will see you soon, hopefully with some more updates and more happy eels.